Welcome to Phone Mart. How may I help you?
iPhone 4. Where is the iPhone 4? I need an iPhone 4.
Oh, I'm very sorry, but we are currently sold out. However, we did finally get some more HTC Evos in.
What? What is that? Is it an iPhone?
No, it is that 4G phone on Sprint.
If it's not an iPhone, why would I want it?
Well, it's similar to an iPhone, but has a bigger screen.
I don't care.
The internet speeds are around 3 times faster.
I don't care.
It has a higher resolution camera on both the front and the back.
I don't care.
And it doesn't require you to be on Wi-Fi to use video chat.
I don't care.
Its battery is replaceable, as is the memory card.
I don't care.
It is highly customizable, everything from the widgets to the icons, the fonts, and even has video wallpaper.
I don't care.
The monthly bill is cheaper.
I don't care.
It fucking prints money.
I don't care.
It can grant up to 3 wishes, even if one of those wishes is for an iPhone.
I don't care.
It has an app that will build you an island, and then it can transforms into a jet and flies you there.
I don't care about any of that.
Okay, fine. Then what the hell entices you about the iPhone 4, if you don't mind me asking?
It is an iPhone.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. This is Eric Dudas, and I'm joined as always by the co-host of Fully Threaded. He's a man who believes that online Fastener Radio is no place for violent rhetoric. He's Brian Musker. Brian, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks. Hope everyone else is too.
Well, I'm sure if they keep their mind on fasteners and don't speak up too loudly, they'll all be fine as well.
Let's hope, okay?
Thanks for joining us, everyone. It's episode 18, and we'll be uploading to the Fully Threaded site on January 27th, 2011. The lineup for today's show features kind of a 3-part segment from the folks at Beacon Fasteners and Components. They operate out of Wheeling, Illinois. We'll start by talking with partner Bob Wegner. He's going to give us some insight into the beginnings of Beacon and some of the challenges and ups and downs of getting a fastener company off the ground. Then we'll talk with Joe Peplinski, and he's going to discuss with us some of the current conditions with doing business with suppliers in Taiwan and China. Very interesting analysis that he presents. And finally, Jerry Stoczanskyj, their quality manager, will be discussing the ISO program at Beacon. It's a little bit of a longer feature, and we're going to cover that in 2 parts. Also, we'll be talking with Heidi Voltrauer of Volt Industrial Plastics. She's the CEO of the All-American Fastener Show, which is being held for the 2nd year in Branson, Missouri. And we'll get things kicked off with the Fastener News Report with Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International. This edition features coverage of the recent settlement between Fastenal and the U.S. government, as well as a report ranking the best and worst jobs of 2010.
Right. Well, we know where some of the worst jobs are. Right.
You're not going to want to miss that one, folks.
Right.
So thanks again for joining us. And thank you also for some of the great comments that came in after episode 17. We heard from many of you, and feedback is very much appreciated.
You know, one person wanted to know how to contact Todd Walters. Well, the best way is actually through LinkedIn. And if you're not sure how to use LinkedIn, we'll go back to one of our previous episodes.
Right. He was a guest on our last episode, and he's a gun for hire these days, and also an avid LinkedIn user. So
right.
You can find Todd out there in the LinkedInosphere.
Right.
We're the people who bring you FastenersClearinghouse.com and the FCH Sourcing Network. And we hope you're all out there using the search engine. There's over 500,000 line items these days, and there's no charge to use the service. We'd also be very happy to be a sales channel for you. So if you're interested in that, get out to the Fasteners Clearinghouse site at www.fastenersclearinghouse.com and click on the Join the Network link. All of our information is out there, and we'd be happy to talk to you anytime. Our contact info is also clearly available on the site. What have you been working on since the last episode, Brian, to keep things humming along?
It's a couple of things, actually. One of them is a little bit of work in the scrubber to try and rationalize the sizes within the washer listings. And there's a bit of confusion everywhere. No one knows whether the inside diameter or outside is meant to be first, and we're trying to sort that out a little bit better. Should enable people to find washers better and easier. And we're doing a little work also on adding some more, selection pages in the IFI and ASME listings. That should make the fasteners a little bit hotter for some of our members.
Excellent. Well, we like to make a little bit of progress and document all that on each fully threaded episode, so keep up the good work.
Right. I will. Okay.
And there's another appearance of Brian Musker in the Fastener media lately, and there's a picture of you and the lovely and talented Lim Dempsey in the latest issue of the Midwest Fastener Association newsletter.
Wow.
That's right. When we were at the Aztec Locknut open house.
Oh, okay. Oh, so I really am becoming sort of famous in a way.
You are actually kind of a minor celebrity, I would say, in the fastener industry.
Right. I always thought so. Okay.
Don't let it go to your head.
No, I won't. I'll definitely try not to.
But it's a nice shot of you, and the issue actually does a good job of featuring the 2010 scholarship awards that MWFA recently handed out, and boy, they do some good work in that department.
Right. That was a good meeting over at Aztec too, because that showed us a lot of their work and their green technologies. Actually,
it was a really worthwhile open house to attend. I have not really seen any facilities like that before, so I was glad to have the chance. Well, that's one of the great things about being in an association, and they all do it to a certain extent, but our home association is the MWFA, and they do good work. You know, I was talking with Matt DeLauder the other day, and he was on his way scrambling off to the board meeting. They're working very hard on Fastener Tech 11, which is coming up in June, and I heard that booth sales are right on track. It sounds like it's going to be another successful show for the MWFA, and of course Fastener Technology is their partner in that show.
Yeah, and we've been to the last two of those, actually, haven't we?
Yep, and we'll be there again this time. Actually, I'll be doing a presentation of all things social media at the show, and I think we're going to have somebody from the MWFA on an episode of Fully Threaded in the near future, so we'll be getting all the details out there. So FTR is your radio station for Fastener Show coverage.
Right.
In other association news, I saw the NFDA has announced their 2011 meeting schedule, and the annual spring meeting is going to be held April 6th through the 8th in Palm Springs Gardens, Florida.
Oh, so did they announce the theme for this year's meeting?
Yeah, I believe this year's theme is golf.
Wow, that'll be different. I'm sure no one's ever used that before.
Yes, it seems to be a crowd pleaser. Well, if you need more information about that, of course, you can get it all on the NFDA website, and that's at www.nfda-fastener.org. And hopefully we'll see you all out at the spring meeting. And speaking of themes, we here at FTR have nothing against developing themes. Some would say we're actually even a little bit guilty of beating a good theme down into the dirt. I guess today's show's not going to be any different. Or maybe that'll only be obvious to the very astute Fully Threaded listener. Who knows?
Seems there's more and more of those every single episode.
That's right. It's good to see more and more listeners coming on board every episode, and there's more subscribers, and we sure do appreciate that, folks. You can get out to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast. Of course, you're always welcome to stream it right off of the fullythreaded.com website, but people putting it on their iPhones and their Blackberries, that's happening more and more regularly, so we sure do appreciate that. We also look forward to your email, and you can communicate with us anytime at the email address ftr@fullythreaded.com. That's ftr@fullythreaded.com. We also post on Twitter under the handle Fully Threaded, so keep your eyes peeled for intermittent tweets from us.
More tweets from Eric than from me.
Are you accusing me of tweetism?
Well, I'm not sure if I would ever do that.
I should hope not. Actually, the frequency that we use Twitter, I guess I wouldn't qualify yet, but we're getting a little bit better at it. And dare I add that being able to tweet from an iPhone is a great capability too.
Yeah, how could we have lived without that?
I don't know. We kicked off today's episode with the audio from a YouTube cartoon entitled iPhone 4 versus HTC Evo. And the iPhone has been in the news a lot lately, and it's the theme of today's show, that's for sure. Have you heard any conversations similar to that one out there in the electronics stores lately, Brian?
Yes. People sort of say that I'm one of those too, actually. I was very good. I waited my 2 years for an iPhone.
Well, I was a little late in coming to the iPhone party as well, but you got me on board, and I tell you, I'm having a great time using a smartphone. I understand that I probably don't have the religious fervor that a lot of people associate with their phone, but the iPhone is definitely a powerful tool. And as evidence of that, we're seeing all kinds of stories in the media, even the Pope's getting in on the act.
Right, yeah. I saw that.
We'll put a link to this up on our Facebook page. They're discussing how the Pope is an advocate of social media, although he doesn't have his own webpage. This story says, though the Pope 83 does not have his own personal Facebook page, the Vatican has made social media strides through its site Pope to You, which links users to YouTube and Facebook pages, and even an iPhone application.
Okay.
Maybe the subscription version of the application, you can do confessions online. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe other sacraments are available as well. I guess if they had one for last rites, they'd make darn sure you paid for that one in advance, though, huh?
Yeah, I can see you've thought this one right through.
Well, I do a certain amount of show prep.
And there's another story you're talking about the soldier who developed an app to hunt for the Taliban. What was that about?
That's right. FoxNews.com reporting a story entitled Targeting the Taliban. There's an iPhone app for that. This looks really cool. The story says an iPhone app that tracks down the Taliban has been developed by a U.S. soldier who put $26,000 of his own money into the project. Tactical Nav, which is expected to be available through Apple's App Store next month, assists soldiers in mapping, plotting, and photographing waypoints on a battleground and conveying coordinates to supporting units. The creator is quoted as saying, "Since day one, I always believed that smartphones could be utilized by the U.S. military for combat purposes."
Huh, well, that's sort of interesting. I would have thought that military has devices sort of similar but a little more ramped up than our iPhones.
I would have thought so too, I don't know, is this just part of the mania, or is the military really relying on the iPhone to track down? Maybe that's why we haven't got bin Laden yet,
Maybe he's got one too.
Maybe that's all we've needed is the Where is bin Laden app.
Right, yeah. Oh, we have an app for that.
Well, as a practical matter, how does the iPhone network even work in a place like Afghanistan?
Well, I would say with great difficulty, but it's probably the only way a phone can work because they wouldn't have the wire phones like, developed countries have. It's like most of Africa. It's like the only phone system they can really have. I'd say the mountains would make reception pretty spotty, though. Well, let's get back to that. We've got a show to get on with, okay?
All right. We do have the Fastener News Report coming up, and there's a iPhone item in that. Before we get to that, however, note here from the Fastener Training Institute, in partnership with the Industrial Fasteners Institute, they will again be offering the week-long intensive version of the Certified Fastener Specialist program, and that's an advanced technical training program being held July 25th through the 29th, 2011, and that's in Cleveland, Ohio. You can get details of this at the Fastener Training Institute website, and that's at www.fastenertraining.org. Seems like a very worthwhile program, and I know the Pacific West Fastener Association is supporting that also.
Yeah.
And another news item, I was talking with Kevin from Manufacturers Fastener World, and they are in full drawdown mode right now. Actually, they're in full scrapping mode. He told me they've got 3 to 4 truckloads heading out each day to the scrap yard, and those are 30 to 40,000 pounds each truckload. So they're cleaning out that warehouse pretty quick. They plan to be closed down by the end of February. And I asked him if it would be smart for listeners to get with him if they're looking for any deals. And he said there's still some time. What he'd prefer that you do is go out to their website at www.m-f-w.com and see what they've got listed. They're selling for 10 to 20 cents on the dollar, he said. So if you've done business with Manufacturers Fastener World in the past, they're closing their doors. They'll be completely shut down by the end of February. And it's coming up to be your last chance. So get with Kevin through his website.
Right. I would think a lot of people have done business with them in the past. I mean, everyone knows who they are.
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking me about that. So I called them up and got the story straight before we put this out there. So jump on that if that's something that's up your alley. And with that, let's get over to the Fastener News Report with Mike McNulty.
Thanks, Eric, and greetings to all the fully threaded radio listeners out there. This is Mike McNulty with the Fastener News Report, brought to you by Fastener Technology International, the print and digital magazine for the entire global fastener industry. Reporting on location here in northern Ohio, we've had to endure single-digit temperatures this month, but we're combating that hardship by preparing for a large caloric and visual feast on Super Bowl Sunday, less than 2 weeks away. Until then, why don't we take a look at some news in the fastener industry? Our lead story today is all about the Indian fastener industry, which is getting stronger and bigger in 2011. GlobalSources.com is reporting that many Indian fastener companies are expecting a 20 to 50% surge in output and exports this year. The automotive sector is singled out as the main Indian growth driver, with additional demand being seen from the telecommunications, construction, electronics, and textile machinery industries. Several challenges, such as the rising cost of steel and an insufficient energy supply, threaten Indian fastener makers, but GDPA Fasteners, Micron Precision Screws Limited, and Lakshmi Precision Screws were called out in the report as Indian companies that have properly prepared themselves to take advantage of improving opportunities. Global Sources reports that there are about 150 suppliers of fasteners listed in EEPC India. It's also known as the Indian Export Promotion Council. EEPC was set up in 1955 under the sponsorship of the Indian government to promote Indian exports. They say that exports make up about 20% of all fastener output in the country. Another group that is bullish on India is Mack Brooks. They're the organizers of Fastener Fair India, a trade show scheduled for this April. Mack Brooks says that India made 2 million passenger cars and 8 million two-wheeler vehicles in 2009, and those numbers are increasing 10 to 12% per year. This is the first year that they're doing a trade show in India. On a personal level, regarding India, one of my colleagues in the wire industry went to the country last fall for a trade show. He told me that these are exciting times in India. Everyone is very upbeat over there, and most companies seem to have expansion plans. He compares India to China 15 years ago. GDP growth is nearing 10% per year, and the Indian growth cycle could be 10 to 15 years, not just the normal 3 to 4 year growth cycle, which is typical in the USA. He says that even though there are lots of infrastructure problems in the country, it's not hard to be in the Indian market since it's an English-speaking democracy with laws based on British rules. My take is, with most eyes on China these days, India may be worth a look for opportunities as well as a source of new competitive threats. Now let's move on to our Fastener Newsmaker highlights, which are dominated this edition by People News. First up, the Midwest Fastener Association, also known as the MWFA, has announced its 2011 Board of Directors. Becky Mojuros of American Fasteners and Components will serve as the MWFA President. Matt DeLauder of SWD is the new association Vice President. Paula Evitz of KDS Imports will serve as Treasurer, and Glenn Bryn takes on the job of Secretary. The Board of Directors is rounded out by Rick Cavoto of Metric and Multistandard, David Gowlick of Heads and Threads, Bob O'Brien of Certified Products, Rich Pease of Federal Screw Products, and Wayne Wishnu of XL Screw. Serving as alternates this year are Henry Chernow of MAE Specialties and Cliff Hauger of Acme Threaded Products. Nancy Rich is the association's executive director. Elgin Fastener Group has added Dale Notek to its management team, and he will focus on engineering and design assignments for the group's fastener divisions. EFC International has added 2 sales engineers, Leslie Metzger and Tom Merrill. Leslie will be based out of the Bloomingdale, Illinois office, and she's responsible for application development and account management in the Chicago area. Tom will be based out of his home in Dallas, and he will cover Texas and Oklahoma. On February 1st, 2011, Acument Global Technologies will have a new president and chief executive officer. Patrick Page is replacing Rick Dauch, who held the position since June of 2008. Dauch is leaving the company this month to pursue other opportunities. Page joined Acument in July of 2008 as vice president and chief administrative officer. He also directed Acument operations in Italy and the UK, and he has worked with other companies such as Johnson Controls, American Axle and Manufacturing, and Chrysler Corporation. In other Acument news, Tim Ware told local news media that after looking at relocating the company's headquarters to California, Tennessee, Indiana, or Illinois, the company has consolidated its headquarter operations to its Sterling Heights, Michigan plant. Acument also struck a deal with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation to expand 3 of its Michigan factories. It expects to hire 50 people per year over the next 3 years, expanding its total workforce to 500 by 2012 and 600 by 2014. Our final newsmaker highlight concerns Fastenal Company. Bloomberg reports that the company agreed to pay the U.S. government $6.25 million to settle a claim that it had overcharged government customers for hardware. This case relates to a contract Fastenal had with the General Services Administration, also known as a GSA, beginning in 2000 and ending in the year 2005. GSA conducted an audit in 2005 and in 2006, and it concluded that Fastenal knowingly overcharged the government by failing to provide discounts offered to other Fastenal customers. The case was turned over to the U.S. Justice Department, which threatened to sue the company in July of 2010. Settlement talks ensued and came to a conclusion this month, with Fastenal making a one-time payment of $6.25 million to the United States government. Tony West, the Assistant USA Attorney General, said, "The Justice Department is acting to ensure that government purchasers of commercial products can be certain that they are getting the prices to which they are entitled." Fastenal countered with its own statement. "We continue to believe that we complied with our obligation under the GSA contract in all material respects. However, we felt a continuation of our dispute with the Department of Justice and GSA was not the best use of our resources." Fastenal reports that it spent over $6 million defending itself in this case in the years 2009 and 2010 against the U.S. government. I have some editorial comments on this story, but first let's look at 3 fastener events on the horizon. Seminars for Engineers has announced the 2011 dates for its Fastening Technology and Bolted Joint Design Seminar, March 2nd and 3rd, 2011 in Chicago, Illinois. Bill Eckles is the instructor, and his company, Bolt Science, is a leader in the field of bolted joint technology. The 5th Fastener Trade Show is to be held on April 8th and 9th, 2011 at the Suzhou International Expo Center in Suzhou, China. It's expected that over 400 exhibitors will showcase their latest products, including fasteners, machinery, tools, molds, surface treatment equipment, and raw materials, to approximately 10,000 visitors. The show organizer, China Fastener Info, says that the show's theme this year is New Achievement, New Brand, and New Trend. The 2011 NFDA Annual Spring Meeting takes place April 6th to 8th, 2011 at the PGA National Palm Beach Gardens Resort and Spa in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Highlights of the meeting include an exporting presentation from the U.S. Department of Commerce, an economic trend presentation by the Institute of Trend Research, roundtable discussions, a charity activity, a cookout, and plenty of golf. Okay, let's turn to the back page of this report where I give some personal interest stories and some editorial comments. First up, The Economist reports that the digital world living in the Twitterverse and blogosphere has been getting all worked up over the news that Apple is switching the types of fasteners it uses on the iPhone 4 case. Apple is switching from standard Phillips head cross pattern screws to a pentalobe style screw, which has 5 lobes for engaging a screwdriver. Many people are crying foul that this is an Apple conspiracy to keep people out of their cell phones and to make money on battery replacements. One blog post called Apple's Plan Diabolical and Evil. Thankfully, there is no shame in trying to make money in a free market, and if you don't want to pay Apple, then you can buy a screwdriver and screws from a third party and do it yourself. I doubt that Satan was behind this move, but it's good to see fasteners getting news in the mainstream press. Our next back page story is on jobs. CareersCast has released its annual job ratings report, and the top 10 jobs for this year are: number 1, software engineer; number 2, mathematician; 3, actuary; 4, statistician; number 5, computer systems analyst; number 6, meteorologist; 7, biologist; 8, historian; number 9, audiologist; and rounding out the top 10, dental hygienist, which seems to me to be out of place on this list. CareersCast also lists the 10 worst jobs for 2011, and they are: number 10, construction worker; number 9, meter reader; number 8, painter; 7, welder; 6, emergency medical technician; 5, taxi driver; number 4, roofer; number 3, lumberjack; number 2, iron worker; and number 1 for 2011, roustabout. It sounds to me like the authors of this report do not appreciate manual labor, but my vote for the best job title goes to the guys working on oil rigs and pipelines, the humble but physical roustabouts. Finally, here's my take on the story of Fastenal paying over $6 million to the United States government. I didn't follow all the details of this case, but it looks to me like the U.S. government is simply taking advantage of another successful U.S. business. Where I come from, discounts are not rights guaranteed to everyone, but something to be negotiated or earned based on relationships with a supplier. Savvy buyers and purchasing agents usually get the best deals. If you stink at negotiating, then you should not be able to turn around and sue your supplier. It sounds like Fastenal did the math and decided to cut and run from the case before throwing more money away on legal fees. To me, this looks like just another example of the government not being good at something, but pushing its weight around anyways to get what it wants. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International, bringing you the Fastener News Report. You can visit us at fastenertech.com to learn more about the fastener industry, and you can send your news, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
Heidi Voltrauer up next to talk about the All-American Show. Then it's Bob Wegner of Beacon. Stick around.
FastenersClearinghouse.com. Search and source from over 500,000 line items, or just a mouse click away and available at no charge. When the need arises, you won't find a better place to locate hard-to-find fastener inventory. It's where you need to be.
This is Joe Truckee of Cal Fasteners, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for us.
This is Robert Wanzer, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for American Imperial.
This is Andy Pell from ScrewCrew.com, and FCH works for the fastener industry.
Join the sourcing network now and show your inventory to a whole new market. Turn slow movers into cash. List up to 10,000 line items. Show them to distributors only or to the world. FastenersClearinghouse.com. It's where you need to be.
This is Matt DeLauder from SWD Incorporated, home of the Black Ox, wishing the MWFA a happy 65th anniversary. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
There is a new show in the fastener world. 2010 was the inaugural year for the All-American Fastener Show down in Branson. That happened last May, and it got off the ground with a very good start, or so we heard from everyone who attended. And with us now is the CEO of the All-American Fastener Show. She's Heidi Voltrauer, Vice President of Sales and Marketing of Volt Industrial Plastics. Heidi, welcome. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to be here, or I guess on the phone with you guys.
Well, it's good to have you. How's it looking for this year's All-American Show?
It's looking great. Last year we had a total of 36 booths. This year so far we have 36. Our goal is to fill 67 spaces, so there's 31 spaces left. And just this morning, I had 3 booths come through, so it's very exciting.
Wow, that's good. Can you tell, are you getting more people from the Midwest, or is it from all over the U.S.?
It's actually from all over. We have a booth from California. We have people from the Northeast, Chicago area, Texas, Florida. They're coming in from all over, and that's the intent. I wanted this to be a national show that's in the center of the U.S., and it looks like we are headed in that direction.
Well, that's really good to hear. The show this year is May 12th and 13th down in Branson, Missouri. And
correct.
Everybody that I talked to that, as I said at the top, really had positive things to say about last year's show. What went on last year, and what do you have lined up for this year? Maybe that's a step advancing everything.
Well, I'm sure that the free alcohol was something that enhanced the show quite a bit. You know how us Fastener people are.
Welcome to Fully Threaded.
Well, this year, exactly. Well, that's the first thing people want to hear about, right? It's the free alcohol. But no, this year we've added a golf tournament, and it's a 2-man scramble that's going to be on the 12th, the day before the show. And it's at the Payne Stewart Golf Club, which I hear is beautiful. I'm not a golfer, but it's a beautiful golf course. And from what I hear, they're going to have a pro golf tournament a week after we have our tournament there. Wow. So it's going to be in tip-top shape. And it's going to be $290 per 2-man team. We're going to give away first, second, and third prizes, and that also includes a lunch and your cart and all the fees and everything. And then that evening we're going to have our Fastener Bash. Again, that's where the free alcohol will be at. And we're going to have some great food, and we're going to extend it this year. Last year we, had it planned for an hour, and everybody was having such a good time. We went and extended it another half an hour. So we're going to go ahead and just have it for an hour and a half. And, of course, we'll announce the winners and everything of the golf tournament and just have a good time. Everybody visit and network. And, that's really the point, of the show is to kind of get everybody together from all over the U.S. and make it kind of an old-fashioned Fastener show where everybody is having a good time together and networking. That's the goal, with alcohol.
Oh, okay. Now, Heidi, a question I want to ask you is that, given the number of shows in the US, do we really need another Fastener show?
That's a good question. And, when I started this show, when it first started to be advertised, a few years ago, that was the census. I thought, what am I doing? But, I think that the All-American Fastener Show is really an original show because it is all-American. And the intent behind the show actually makes it, I think, stand out and be a different kind of show in the industry. And I think all the shows are great for what they bring, and everybody chooses the shows that they go to for whatever reason is good for their company and for their business. And this show just happens to be all-American, so wherever that falls in line for businesses, that's a choice that they have to make.
Sure, I understand. So it's filling a perceived need, and I guess we'll see if the market reacts. And if so, then, you've hit a dinger, huh?
Absolutely, and I have to tell you, I've had so much support industry-wide. I think that by May, we'll definitely fill all the booths, and, we're going to have a lot of people. I think they're curious, and I think a lot of people are going to be coming just to check it out and see what it's about.
Well, I'll tell you, one thing you've got going for you is the location. Branson is certainly a destination. I think a lot of people probably have heard about it and might not have traveled there. They hadn't had a good reason previously. In addition to the golfing, I was talking to some guys who were out last year, and they actually took advantage of some of the good fishing that's available there in the White River. And, of course, Table Rock Lake is nearby, isn't it?
Yeah, in fact, you're right on the lake. The venue, the hotel, first of all, the hotel is just really beautiful. The convention center is amazing. and then you walk right across the street there onto the landing, and the landing has restaurants and shopping and nightlife, and it's right on the lake. And some of the guys, Ken Schneeloch and Vic from Cambridge and Kevin Booth, they rented a boat and they went fishing, and they had a really good time. In fact, when I was having lunch, I saw them out on the lake fishing and having a great time.
Yeah, actually, Vic showed me the picture of him and his trout. That was pretty cool.
Wow, yeah, it seems like a place that you would be, Eric, actually.
That's right.
That was a good picture of Vic, definitely. I had to put that in Link Magazine. But also another fun place that all the Fastener people ended up at was the piano bar on the landing, and that seemed to be a hot spot for all the Fastener folks, and we had such a good time.
Well, it's obvious this thing's got a lot going for it, and you've got some positive traction happening. We should point out that the website for the All-American Fastener Show is www.allamericanfastenershow.com. How'd you come up with that URL, Heidi?
It was tough. Yeah, I had to be very, very creative with that one.
Well, in any event, that URL will get you to all the information that you need about the show. And as you just said, there's 36 booths already signed up. It's still early, and you're shooting for 60 to 70 booths?
Yeah, actually 67 is what we have allotted as far as space in the convention hall. So I think we're going to make it.
Wow, good. Well, I hope you do.
Heidi, tell us about the sponsorship opportunities that are available for the show.
Yeah, we have some great sponsorship opportunities this year. We have 3 different levels, a red, white, and blue sponsorship. I know that's really creative, the red, white, and blue, but there's different opportunities with each of those levels. And I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody about the different sponsorship opportunities. And they can also go on the website, again, allamericanfastenershow.com, and take a look at the different levels and what they have to offer. Also, the 800 number, you can talk to me directly at 877-865-8237.
Perfect. Well, we'll look forward to seeing the sponsorship roles expanding, and hopefully you're going to sell out those spaces that you've got there.
I hope so. It's looking good so far.
We've been talking with Heidi Voltrauer, Vice President of Sales and Marketing from Volt Industrial Plastics, and she's heading up the All-American Fastener Show. That's May 12th and 13th in Branson, Missouri. Thanks for joining us, Heidi, and we're going to see you down there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric and Brian. I appreciate the time.
Pleasure.
When I received the summer issue of Distributors Link magazine, it was about 95 degrees, and the cover story of that issue was Beacon Fastener and Components. They operate out of Wheeling, Illinois. And it started out describing how one of their employees drives about 90 minutes every day to work. In this case, it was about a 10-degree February morning. And, of course, as we record this segment, it's about 3 degrees in Chicago and quite different, so a lot more like the article. And with us to discuss that article and more, we have one of the partners of Beacon, that's Bob Wegner, and also Joe Peplinski and Jerry Stoczanskyj. Gentlemen, welcome to Fully Threaded.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, as I mentioned, that was a great cover piece that was done on the link. You did a very good job on that.
Well, thanks.
How did you come up with the idea to present your company that way?
We just started talking, just, roundtable and stuff back and forth. And as it mentioned in the article, Gary and I are a little off the wall and try to have fun with this thing on a day-to-day basis, and as well as run it. And we just started spitting ideas out and started talking about, Jerry and his ride and getting some other people involved and them commenting on what their experience is with Beacon and how we started the company and what some of the things Gary and I went through, which all business owners do, go through in the beginning, just to get started. And we had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, well, it really comes across that way and projects a certain image of Beacon. And of course, that's really one of the hallmarks of your company, isn't it?
Yeah, we're different. We, like everybody else, who starts a business in this industry, you work in the industry first. And, Gary and I worked for a couple tough companies, and some we liked, some we didn't. And we just had some different ideas on, when we started Beacon, how we were going to run it, how we were going to treat the people, how we were going to treat the customers. It wasn't just about making money, although obviously that's part of it, and getting some control over your own time and your own destiny. Gary and I really wanted to approach it differently, and we tried to create a company that to work for, that we wanted to work for. We, like all companies, I'm sure, we place a lot of value on the people that are here. Bottom line is, they're running the company, and everybody contributes to making Beacon better. And so we're just loving, people coming up with ideas, helping us improve, motivated. And I think we've put an environment together that's conducive to that. There's not a lot of pressure here. And, even though we all know we need to hit the numbers and we've got to get the shipments right and get them out and we've got bills to pay, there's enough pressure in there on a day-to-day basis without standing on the back of people's necks and, making them feel uncomfortable while they're here. So we just try to get good people to begin with. And, like I mentioned in the article, we don't want to give them a reason to leave. So, we try to compensate people in a, fair, even more than fair basis. We give them incentives to try to better themselves financially. We started a company that we like to work for, and I think the people really like it here. It's a fun atmosphere, and, we've grown, and, we hit the numbers, and we're profitable, and, I think everybody's pretty much motivated.
Now, Bob, Gary Pavlik, your partner, and you have been in business since 1979, and that's pretty much detailed in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And it really does do a good job of illustrating exactly what you're describing, because after all, Jerry driving an hour and a half every day one way to work, that says a lot about your company.
Yeah, Jerry likes it here. Jerry's been, he's been a big piece of what's helped us with continuous improvement. The big buzzword, when we were looking for a guy like Jerry was, all of our customers were talking about ISO. And I don't even know really back then that I really understood it. And it wasn't until Jerry got here and we sat down and talked and he started showing me, the whole continuous improvement thing. That clicked with both Gary and I, and we're like, hey, wait a minute, we can really improve this company. And so exciting in the beginning for us because we just started identifying problems and, we started really, really tracking, how many on-time shipments we had, how many quality problems we had, how those things happened. And in the beginning, it was just crazy because, we had 6 or 7 people sitting around a meeting and we'd never done that before. And it's like, oh, how can we fix this? And, is it a systems thing? Is it a retraining thing? And what is it? And it was just so cool because right off the bat, right in the beginning, we were watching the numbers that we had. And we always thought we were a good company. We always had the customer in mind. We always wanted to ship on time. But we never really sat down with each order that we had a problem with and say, hey, what happened here? It was 2 days late. How did that happen? Or we had a quality problem, and how did that happen? Or there was a labeling problem, and how did that happen? So he was an ISO auditor at the time. And Jerry told us at the beginning, he goes, hey, guys, you know what? You're going to fix all the low-lying fruit. And that's what we did. So, there were instances where, we had a shipping error, and that was a common thing, and it happened 4 times, and it happened 4 times the same way. And we'd go fix that, and then we didn't have any of those. And, we just, every aspect of the business, we just started throwing on the table and round tabling, and everybody was sitting around giving ideas. We're changing systems. It was just really exciting. So that's when we really started tracking the numbers, and that's when we really started seeing the improvements. And so, with the retraining and the documentation and the paperwork and everything, we just got it together like quick, and everybody was excited about it. So it was a real team thing, and it still is. The things that we're battling with right now it's the one-off stuff. I mean, we've got this thing to the point where, when we have a problem, it's like it's a keystroke error. And how do you go to somebody that, because we process a lot of orders through here every month, and we're looking at it going, well, how can you go to somebody and say, hey, you know what, don't do that again because it was a one-off. Yeah. So, it's that kind of stuff. So, but we've gotten good, and we're looking to get it better. So it's a real open environment. And like it was mentioned in the article, hey, you know what, if somebody makes a mistake, we all make mistakes. I mean, I make mistakes, and hey, if it's a mistake that you made, let's work on trying to fix it. And so that's kind of the way, you don't hear voices getting raised here. Nobody's yelling. Everybody makes mistakes. Sometimes they're big. And you know what? We try to learn from them and go forward.
I suppose one of the benefits that the ISO certification really forces on you, which is the ability or the requirement that you document procedures, and hence the very thing you're talking about, repeating the mistakes, that ends up sort of being a part that goes away because you have these procedures written down.
Right. You have the procedures written down and people get retrained. So if somebody does leave or there's a job change, there's instructions for that next person so that they don't make that mistake. That's really what drives this kind of thing. So, and honestly, in the beginning with ISO, it was just like, well, how much is that going to cost? And when can we get the guy in? And how fast can I get the certificate? And then, right. Then let's just go past that. And it wasn't until, like I said, with Jerry really explaining it. And actually now we just had our annual ISO audit yesterday. And still Jerry, because he was an auditor, he wants to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and that we're prepared and everything. It's not so much to me about the formality of all of that. It really happens to the company once you start it and implement it and get everybody, in a comfortable environment and a non-threatening environment and say, hey, we're looking to fix some stuff here, guys. So what do you think should get fixed?
Yeah. I used to work for a German company based in Cologne, and being a good German company, every single procedure was documented and had been for the last 100 years. But when they went through ISO certification, it was like a nightmare because it all of a sudden required a much, much higher level of documentation than even they were used to.
Yeah. Well, this whole thing came out of Europe.
It did, yeah. We went through ISO certification in 1991. So it was sort of early on. It was tough.
Yeah, so like for us, it's really been good, and we use it. It's really helped improve Beacon. So, like I said, Gary and I are just like anybody else out there. We want to do the best for our employees. We want to do the best for ourselves. I mean, we got into business for a reason, and obviously we want it to be profitable. We want to benefit from that, but we want everybody to benefit from that. And I was having a conversation with some people here yesterday because when we hit this recession, not long ago, Gary and I, when we started the business in '79, it was the very early '80s. I mean, we had just started this thing, and we were borrowing money from banks at that time. I don't remember what the prime was back then, but I mean, we were talking about like 20% money back then.
Wow.
So, for the first 3 or 4 years that Gary and I started the business, we didn't take a paycheck. And my wife was working at Walgreens, okay. Gary's wife was working also, and it's like, hey, hon, I see your business card, and I know you go there every day, but so I remember the first time we did paychecks, it was $25. I netted $17.50, and even though we were laughing about it, that $17.50 really helped because I remember when we were not taking paychecks. This is going to sound stupid to some people, but, our budget was food, gas, and cigarettes because we both smoked at the time was like $25 a week. So that $17 was, hey, and I joke because I entered the paycheck. I'm like, okay, well, we're not going to talk about money anymore now. I got $17.50 here.
Yeah, right. But those are good days when you can think back on them.
But they were tough times for us. I mean, my wife, she was paying the bills, and there wasn't enough to go around, and it was tough in the beginning, like it is for a lot of everyone that starts usually. I mean, not many people start up a fastener company and they're overcapitalized. And I think I had $4,000 at the time. I think Gary had $4,000. We had a plater. This is going back in the city called Amber Plating Works, and that guy we knew well from a couple of fastener companies that Gary and I had worked for. And of course, we needed a plater right away. And he said, "Hey, I want in." He goes, so I mean, it was nice. He came up with $5,000 or $10,000. Which really helped, and we weren't able to get any help from a bank at all. I mean, we went in right away and wanted to get a $10,000 line of credit, and that just said flat out not happening. So, but like I said, back then the prime was nuts. So, we were basically just treading water.
How long did that period last, Bob?
God, I'm going to say 2.5, 3 years. Yeah, and then it started breaking loose. It was just tough, and of course we didn't think it was going to be, because we didn't know. We had just both turned 24 years old, so it was new to us.
Right. Well, there's a lot of parallels there between what you did and the online fastener sourcing network business.
We're still in the early days, okay?
I mean, it's funny that, with your company, because I remember doing business with a company called Industrial Supply. Do you guys remember that name?
I don't.
No.
Okay. They were in Chicago, and they were where you went when you couldn't find something back then. And a guy by the name of Lyle Nathan owned it, and in a large warehouse in the city, and they were the first ones that were buying hardware from distributors and then, reselling them. Oh, the whole warehouse was full. When we first started out, import stuff came in wooden kegs. So, I mean, and you'd never miss the smell in a warehouse back then, because you'd walk in and you'd just smell that wood. That
sounds like Manufacturers Fastener World's model.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they were next. I'm not sure. But, yeah, Lane Nathan had that business for many years. I think into the 40s, into the 50s, into the 60s. I think they may have closed in the 80s. I'm not sure, but it was where you went when you couldn't get a part or an importer was out. You were calling them up.
Well, we all know where you go for that sort of thing these days, and we don't even have to say anything about that.
Yep, exactly. The technology's really changed, and that's great. You guys are right on the leading edge of that, so it's how customers want to buy now.
Part 2 of our conversation with Team Beacon coming up next.
This is Tom Buddenbone. I am the membership chair for the NFDA and the partner in Technology Components Southwest. I'd like to invite you to consider membership in the NFDA. Some of the benefits to membership include tremendous industry networking, business education via the Institute for Trend Research, economic insights with the quarterly trend reports from a service that's provided to us, global perspective when buying and selling all over the world, tremendous benefit in information sources from Asia and Europe, gives you an opportunity to strengthen your relationship with other members, both suppliers and distributors. We offer an annual meeting that has ESPS session, which are a series of 30-minute scheduled meetings with existing companies you do business with, and more importantly, for companies that you don't do business with and want to learn a little more about. Our goal is to gain new members, both distributors and associates or manufacturers and large importers, and we also want to invite back those that have dropped out of NFDA in the past due to some of the economic issues of the past couple of years. It's a great association with great members. Please take a peek at www.nfda-fastener.org, or you can call the office for NFDA at area code 312-673-4900. Thank you again, Tom Buddenbone with Technology Components and the NFDA.
Hi, this is Mike with Iowa Fasteners, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Well, Joe Peplinski, we haven't heard from you. What's your take these days on the business climate?
You know, from our perspective, looking at last year, going into this year, and then the outlook, you know, last year continued to improve really month by month by month, and we saw the numbers go in the right direction. We had the customers telling us that things were starting to feel a little bit more stable in the marketplace, so on and so forth, and that has held very well, or has really toed that line for the first couple weeks of January. And boy, I tell you, from the customer side, the ones that our sales folks are talking to anyway, they're very bullish on the market. And maybe it's a simple fact that they were all beat down so hard over the last year or so that, you know, they had nowhere to go but up. But right. I tell you, they're talking very nice growth numbers that they've either had towards the end of last year or that they're forecasting. And the part that really encourages me, and kind of tying it overall into the overall economy, is the parts that Beacon sells today are all OEM related. So everything we sell is going into something that's being made probably here in the U.S. So hopefully that's a good sign of things to come for the overall economy as well. But from the customer side, all is very, very positive. On the supply side, you know, we look at our business, you know, right now, based on the product lines that we support, the lion's share being plus 90% of our goods comes from Taiwan, with very little business in China with the product lines that we have currently in our catalog. The Taiwan market seems relatively stable. I think we all know or expect China Steel to slowly but surely trying to up their wire prices as the year goes on, but you know, we'll kind of watch and see how that happens. The one big variable that we're all fighting with is that currency exchange. That seems to get us every day. I looked at the exchange rates this morning, and surprisingly, they ticked up a couple tenths of a percent in our favor this time. So, but Taiwan is good for us. You know, we've got some pretty stable lead times that we're seeing. We had a little bit of a lead time push over the last 3-4 months, and that was mainly due to some of the bottlenecks with the heat treaters and platers over there. I think that was a result of a lot of those Chinese orders moving into Taiwan with the Chinese and the European anti-dumping, and you know, they definitely had some bottlenecks with the secondary processes over there. But that seems to have calmed down, at least from the standpoint that it's stable, and it's making our jobs a lot easier as far as planning and managing our on-time shipments and so forth. So we're in a pretty comfortable position right now with the core base that we deal with in Taiwan. Now in China, it's, you know, a whole nother story. There's less stability over there, not like it was the last year or so, you know, with the Chinese government coming out of the gate and putting some power restrictions on people and so forth. And you know, again, the Chinese factories are right, wrong, or indifferent. They're used to that type of setting now, so they're able to at least adjust to it and so forth. But over there, the government, as we're seeing it, still is trying to control that monetary policy to help keep inflation intact over there. But it'll be interesting to see after the Lunar New Year is over, because again, everybody that we're talking to is estimating that the labor dollar, the labor rates that they're paying are going to go up anywhere from 15 to 30%. When the workers return from their holidays.
In one hit?
Yeah, yep. That's
Wow.
the number that's being floated around. So again, whether it comes out at 15 or 30, it'll be interesting to see where that actually settles out.
What is this rise being attributed to? Could you explain that a little bit?
It's just the wages are going up over there, and what has happened over the years is when the employees leave for holiday, it doesn't necessarily mean that 100% of them come back to that factory or that geography for that matter. They look for other opportunities, and it's just simply there's more competition for the better paying jobs.
And it seems like those pesky market forces creeping in again.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
That doesn't mean prices are going to go up 30%.
No, absolutely not.
But does it indicate that gives your Taiwan suppliers a benefit over the Chinese suppliers then?
Yeah, maybe not a benefit over them today, but clearly the gap is shrinking between the two countries. And labor is one piece of the puzzle. The electricity, the power restraints is another issue that the folks in China continue to battle. And again, they're a little bit more accustomed to the rolling brownouts and so forth. That it's not a surprise like it was when they first threw that out. But one new little twist that it appears that the government over there is starting to require or implement, I think what they're calling it is more or less along the lines of a new emissions quota. So kind of like our carbon emissions talk that was in within our political circles. It sounds like the Chinese government is actually looking to and having implemented that to some degree. So now the factory has to buy a 5-year voucher, if you will, on emissions, and that's another added cost that wasn't in the mix as late as last year, for that matter. So you have that rolling on over in China, along with the steel prices. There's still going to be pressure to move those up. There's still enough demand for steel in the country that the pricing pressure isn't going to retract any. Where it will go, how high it will go, it's probably very modest gains is what we're expecting, or is what we're being told anyways. And then the other variable that the folks are talking about over there is the remaining 5% on the VAT rebate. That seems to be always in play at this point, and the government clearly doesn't look highly upon our industry, as it's very raw material intensive and so forth. So they're not necessarily looking at always encouraging those type of factories to continue to really draw the natural resources and higher pollution, so on and so forth. So it seems like that remaining 5% is going to always be in play, and whether it remains in place for the next year, 2 years, 3 months, it's anybody's guess at that point. So
this VAT you're describing, when did that get imposed?
That's been in place for years and years and years. It used to be much higher than 5%, and it had lowered to 5%, I want to say 3 years, 4 years or so ago. So it's a rebate the Chinese government puts in place, and it is a little incentive on their side of the business. So as soon as that goes, that's going to be a 5% hit to the cost of goods that our industry is looking at.
Right.
But again, whether it goes away in 3 months or 3 years, it's really anybody's guess at this point.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Beacon specifically. I was looking at your website, and that's at www.beaconfasteners.com. Among other things, there's a link on the homepage to the Distributors Link magazine story that we were talking about at the top of the segment here. So I advise everyone to take a look at that. What kinds of things are you doing to promote Beacon? What's in your plan these days, guys?
From our perspective, Beacon's got a couple different areas that we are going to focus on. But primarily today what we're looking at is one, product line expansion, and then also development within our QC process. And I think Jerry, our QC director, has probably joined in on the exchange here now, and he'll be able to give some details on how we approach it from the standpoint of what's our overall QC philosophy and so on and so forth. But the way we approach the market is significantly different than the majority of the people we look at as competitors. And we do it, again, it's really in twofold. One is the products and how we service the customer with their requirements, and along those same lines is a quality piece. The product side, everything that we buy today comes in quarter kegs just like everybody else, but the difference that we have is we're staffed and have always been staffed to pull the quantities that the customer wants. So for an A item that's moving off the shelf, yeah, everybody will take that quarter keg box and blow through it in a month or 2 or 3 or whatever the frequency is. But for those C and D items, that's where we are really going to start to continue to add more and more value. Coming out of this recession, inventory was such a big deal for everybody. And we believe our model is built in a format that will really help the distributor for the simple fact that if it's an odd item and it's, say box 4,000 per, and that customer is looking at it from the standpoint saying, I only need 1,250 pieces, that's what they're going to get from Beacon. And, again, it's not something new. It's what we do today with the product lines we have. And we look at the product lines that are really more or less SKU intensive. There's 1,000, 2,000 SKUs to a family of parts. Maybe there's 100 or 200 high flyers, and the rest are parts that the customer needs to have to service their customer, but they don't need that extra value, that extra inventory value. So again, we're positioned very well from that standpoint. So we're going to continue to look for product lines that fit our model. We have a small screw business from the standpoint of SEMs and thread formers and thread cutters and high-lows and tapping screws. We're going to look for parts that are similar, and we're really going to look for the customer to help us define what our catalog looks like year in and year out. So that's going to continue to be a focus. And then the other area where we're really going to look at focusing is the quality side. And I won't get too deep into that. I'll let Jerry talk about it. But I'll give you one little story or one little kind of side note that I thought was somewhat comical in that we had a supplier in town just visiting from China and talking to him a little bit. And, of course, I wanted to take him down to our lab because, everybody says quality this, quality that. But who's really checking parts? Who's really inspecting them and so forth? And what's one thing Beacon is, we do what we say we're going to do. And the supplier said, I've known you for a long time and I trust you and so forth. And his comment was looking at Jerry saying, boy, you guys are really going to check my parts, aren't you? And we're like, absolutely, that's our business. So, but that's the refreshing part here. It's, like Bob said, it's a very, call it casual atmosphere, but it's always focused on the customer and the employee. And we're always looking at ways to limit the risk of our customers and our employees. So if that means us doing some things above and beyond, call it the industry standards on the quality standpoint, we're more than happy to do that. At that point, maybe I'll have Jerry chime in here and have him give you a little bit more detail on the quality side of our business here at Beacon.
Hey, I'm here.
Hi, Jerry.
How you doing?
Not bad.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, did you just get back from the gas station?
Well, yeah, Bob and I were having a little discussion this morning how my, short-term plan and our strategic plan, and I was giving them my personal 5-year plan about, moving up north and then, of course, buying a one-bedroom trailer, not 2, just 1 is fine. And we're going to park it in between the buildings here, and then, of course, I'll be able to just walk out and walk right into the building. And, Bob, being the kind of guy he is, always concerned for our welfare, he did say, well, you'll have to have a small period of a break-in time, so maybe you just go out, sit in your car for 45 minutes, and then walk into the building.
I would have thought the 5-year plan would have been a branch of Beacon Fasteners down in Florida or somewhere, or Texas.
Well, I don't want to let it out, but that's kind of a sidebar that we're going to be kind of throwing in there.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But it's I've been having an opportunity to sit and listen to Bob and Joe, and kind of reinforce in my mind how excited I am to still be here at Beacon, and I'm glad to be here from the very beginning as far as my career.
So where did you get this great interest in quality control?
Well, my wife says I was born with it, and she often asks me when I get home, how come you don't share some of this wonderful quality back home when you get home?
Okay.
Honey? But no, I've actually, I've been involved in one aspect of quality or another, literally through my whole professional career. Starting out working, for Skilled Power Tools back in the day when they were in Chicago here making power tools, and line inspector, and then just like like a lot of professionals and people in my profession, they've worked up through the ranks. Had amazing opportunities to have some schooling, and somewhere along the line, I was very fortunate to get some very good education and experience in the field of quality systems. I became an ISO registered auditor through the RAB QAS. I've been an auditor for about 13, 14 years, still holding my credentials. And, I had this terrific opportunity to see a lot of operations before I started here at Beacon, working as an auditor, part-time auditor, as well as a full-time auditor for the company I was working with. Was really lucky to be involved in, machine tool business, precision machining business, many different aspects of the industry, except fasteners. So I had an opportunity to join Bob and Gary here, and not knowing fasteners, was a little concerned in the beginning. But after a really good conversation with Bob and Gary, we all kind of came to an understanding that, the fastener part of the business I'll learn. What they really needed is they needed a good handle as a company on systems. They had a terrific business system, they had a terrific financial system, all the wonderful systems, but they needed some, help with quality systems and this whole ISO thing. And I was very lucky. I was able to join them, and they opened their arms. I mean, literally, they opened their arms to the ideas of what the ISO is and continuous improvement and the plan, do, check, act cycle. And they were like, sponges. The more I threw at them, the more they wanted. And we started, having company meetings and employee get-togethers, and we started taking some, pretty what seemed to be pretty simple, problems and opportunities and customer focuses, and we started solving problems, and they were going away. And I'm sitting here, and through the years, people are saying, oh, this is great, and we're making wonderful progress, and I'm sitting there going, okay, that's great. And, I'm getting feedback from Bob and Gary saying, oh, I'm really glad you're here and this and that. And, I'm sitting there going, guys, it's you. You guys are supporting this. You guys have embraced this. Every single employee here at Beacon. I says, you guys are actually making it easy for me, but don't let that out, don't let anybody know that. I'm a hardworking guy, this is taking a lot of energy out of me. But I've really been lucky. I've really been blessed. The idea that, I work for an organization that is open to suggestions or open to understanding what quality systems are. Over the years, we've recognized what our customers are looking for, what's important to them, what they need for them to be successful, and we put systems in place. Everybody has the basic system. Everybody has the, we're going to inspect this, we're going to cross this T, we're going to have this piece of paper. But one that we do here is that we really understand how these systems that we put in place that help us become more efficient ultimately help our customers become efficient. Right. And, for 11 years, I've really been, just a small piece of this pie that really has been very successful. Yeah, I played a role in it, but I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for this crew here, I'd be banging my head against the wall. And I've done my share of that at other companies, but it's different here at Beacon. It really is.
Jerry, when you first came on board until the certification in 99, I guess it was October 99, how long did it take you to implement the program?
Well, the program was here. In other words, every company has a quality system, whether they realize it or not. The question is it going toward the right direction in achieving your goals? Do you even have goals? And then, how successful is it? Are you measuring the results of that system? So there was a system here. But very quickly after I came on board, and Bob and I and a lot of the key managers, we kind of discussed what makes a quality system effective and, how do you measure it? We realized that, we had a system here, but it really wasn't tuned in to, what our customers' needs were and what we need as a company to continue to grow and prosper. So the first year we were here, I started relatively shortly after they achieved their first registration audit and they passed it. But between that and the second audit, basically, 12 months, we realized that, yeah, we had a system, but we really need to revamp it, and we had to go in and literally reorganize it and restructure the whole thing. Now, it's still an ISO system, and it's still based on documentation and training and all the basic stuff. But the fundamentals is there, but the specifics we had to re-engineer it. We had to redesign it. We were finding ourselves in the beginning where we were trying to change our business activities to meet that paper, and that's not what you need to do. You need to make that paper meet what successful business practices you have and what works for your customer. So, within that first year of being here, we spent a lot of time in redesigning the whole quality system. Even though it was still an ISO system, we had changed the mechanics of it to meet our needs and, more importantly, meet our customers' needs. And that was the springboard. After that first year, when we began to realize, holy cow, we cut our customer complaints by 30% in that first year. It's like, wow, we did this? Yeah. So it's an ongoing process.
Sounds like you're the continuous improvement. You're about as enthusiastic a guy as I've ever heard discuss this subject, and that's a testament to what you've achieved.
I'll tell you what, I know this sounds corny, but I absolutely love my job. It was this or be a brain surgeon, and I think this is a lot more fun. So, but I really do enjoy it. And again, we're all patting each other on the back sometimes, but the bottom line is, I wouldn't be this comfortable and I wouldn't be this successful at Beacon. Bob and Gary really go out of the way to make sure that the people that are here, in our company are good fits, and everyone's given the opportunity to shine. And we do it under the quality system umbrella. Bob mentioned we had our audit yesterday, our yearly audit. A lot of companies, here comes the auditor. Come on in. I open up my books, I open up my papers, my doors, my desk drawer, whatever you want to look at, please look, because I am more than happy, because not only have I my confidence, but if you do find anything, it's just another opportunity for me to make it better. And if I make it better for me, I make it better for Bob, make it better for everybody here. It's great. And ultimately, who's going to benefit? My customer. There you go. That's the bottom line.
Now, Jerry, is it true that you test every lot that comes into your warehouse?
Yes, it is true. What makes us different than a lot of people out there is that at some point in the process, every single lot that comes into our facility is inspected and tested at some level of requirements. So, and basically every tapping screw, every lot of tapping screw, let's say for a particular item or a line item, will go through dimensional testing. There'll also be the drive and hydrant billament and the proportional testing, all the testing that's required under the IFI. And we do test every single lot that comes through. And what's really great is the fact that we have the documentation, we have the support documentation, we have it available to our customers. We have them scanned electronically, so we have very easy access to it, and it's a great opportunity for our customers to get the information they need from us as well.
So this is like the quality version of putting your money where your mouth is.
Well, from our point of view, it's validation. But you know what? We also recognize that, this is a great thing to do, but we also are looking at taking the further steps, and that is the validation at the source of the operations.
Right.
I think Joe mentioned that we're going to be going down, and visiting some of our suppliers here shortly, and we're going to be discussing with them what they're going to be doing for us as well as far as the validation, testing, and inspecting to support the program.
And I guess from my perspective, just to kind of give a quick recap on what Beacon is about and where we're going, it's a simple formula, and it's take care of the customer and take care of the employee. And we have a very high value added outlook on our business, and we're going to continue to develop it. And it's going to boil right back down to the two main components, our customers and our employees. So we're going to continue to execute like we have over the years, maybe speed it up a little bit in areas. But again, we appreciate every customer that places orders with us, and anytime there is any suggestion from them, whether it be products, services, ways of doing business, we're looking for that type of information, and we're more than willing to implement and improve our systems, as I think you've got the feel from myself and Bob and Jerry. We're we're down to earth people, and we just want to take care of the folks that help us grow our company.
That has been made abundantly clear. And again, I'll remind folks that on the Beacon website, which is at www.beaconfasteners.com, you can download the Link magazine article from the summer issue that really does a good job of explaining that. And of course, Jerry's daily commute, which is, I guess, a great opportunity for you to listen to Fully Threaded Radio every day, Jerry. So I hope you're doing that. And with that, I'll thank you all, gentlemen, Bob Wegner, Joe Peplinski, and Jerry Stoczanskyj for joining us. It's been really, really enlightening.
Hey, you know what? Thanks a lot for giving us a chance to tell a story.
The story might have told itself.
Thank you, guys.
Don't miss the I finale of FTR 18 coming up next.
FastenersClearinghouse.com. Search and source from over 500,000 line items, all just a mouse click away and available at no charge. When the need arises, you won't find a better place to locate hard-to-find fastener inventory. It's where you need to be.
This is Joe Truckee of Cal Fasteners, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for us.
This is Robert Wanzer, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for American Imperial.
This is Andy Pell from ScrewCrew.com, and FCH works for the fastener industry.
Join the sourcing network now and show your inventory to a whole new market. Turn slow movers into cash. List up to 10,000 line items. Show them to distributors only or to the world. FastenersClearinghouse.com. It's where you need to be.
Hi, this is Hugh Hewitt for the Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund, www.semperfifund.org. Over the past 7 years, twice a year, the wonderful people who operate the Semper Fi Fund and many amazing Marines who have been the beneficiaries of the charities that have supported the Semper Fi Fund, including many thousands of individual donors, have come into my radio studio to tell their amazing stories of serving their country, of being wounded, and how the Semper Fi Fund has helped them make that transition back to recovery. Unfortunately, Bethesda and Walter Reed are full again. More and more men and women are coming back from the war injured, sometimes awfully so. We need the Semper Fi Fund to be there for these Marines and those soldiers, sailors, and airmen who served alongside of them. Please consider a gift to the Semper Fi Fund. Very low overhead, extraordinary capacity to get money where it needs to get in a hurry, and great management, including some of the senior Marines who've ever served under the flag. When you're looking for something to do that will make an impact, please check out the Semper Fi Fund. That's www.semperfifund.org, www.semperfifund.org.
How you doing? This is Al Felice from Rapid Rivet Fastener, your rivet specialist, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric, your online fastening roustabouts, back with you.
Right, where do you dream these words up from?
The roustabout came in as number 10 on the list of crappiest jobs of 2010. And, I'm not too happy to hear that. I mean, I think those guys, we used to call them roughnecks, but the guys who work on those rigs, they keep this country going. And I know it's a hard working job, and they have really zany schedules, but worst job in the world for 2010? Hard to believe.
Yeah, I'm hard to believe that too. No one's ever been frightened of hard work, and it's very, very hard work, and clearly quite high risks.
I would say no one. I mean, that would have ruled out most of the people in Washington, but I take your point. Oh, sorry, was that uncivil of me?
Yes, it was, very. So please retract that, okay?
Well, I tell you, Jerry Stoczanskyj is one enthusiastic guy, and if you had an ISO team or a quality team, he's someone you definitely want on it.
Yes, actually, that's right. I mean, this world of quality control has its great proponents, and the other side is the people who hate it because it enforces, or it should I say, it directs them to use controls they don't really like. The key to getting it working right is it's got to be a crusader who believes absolutely in all the controls built into it. And clearly Beacon's pretty lucky having this guy around.
And on the other side of that equation, you need people at the top who fully support the mission. And in this case, he's got Bob Wegner, and Bob's partner, Gary Pavlik, are obviously strong advocates. And from what I hear out there in the market, it's having the desired effect because those guys are doing a good job.
Yeah.
And it was great to talk to Heidi as well. Sounds like she's on a track to exceed last year's performance with the All-American show down there in Branson. And looking forward to going down there. I haven't been to Branson before.
No, and I have not been to Branson either, but I gather it's actually really quite an interesting drive to get there. So I'll look forward to it, okay?
Yeah, good thing, too, because there's really not a lot of direct ways to get there.
Yeah, so I've learned.
That's not to say you can't fly there. You just can't get a direct flight from Chicago, as far as I know.
Right.
But I'll take this opportunity to thank Heidi Voltrauer of Volt Industrial Plastic, and also our other guests from Beacon Fasteners and Components, Bob Wegner, Joe Peplinski, and Jerry Stoczanskyj. Also, of course, Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International with the Fastener News Report. Another fine job, Mike. And to all of you listening, thanks again for joining us. We really do appreciate it, and we hope that you'll communicate with us. And you can do so at the email address ftr@fullythreaded.com.
Now, we know most of you listen to Fully Threaded by streaming from your PC, but it's also possible that you can subscribe to it from iTunes or from a BlackBerry.
That's right, and we appreciate all of you who are doing so. We know one of our largest growing audience segments is sales folks who are on the road, and you're putting us on your iPhones or your iPods, your mobile devices, and listening to us while you travel. Thanks very much for doing that. You know, getting back to all this iPhone stuff, Bri, there was a couple of stories that were floating around this past week, and I know Mike McNulty touched on it during his report. The one I was looking at was from PCWorld.com, and the headline was, Apple's iPhone 4 screw job.
Yeah, I saw that too. I think really the problem is that, you know, as all these computers get more and more complex, it's harder to let people take them apart. There's too many things inside them, and I think that's at least one of the reasons behind it. I think the other one's probably Apple likes the money that they get from fixing them up.
Well, the conspiracy theorists tend to buy into the latter explanation as far as I've been able to tell, but I'm sure that has something to do with it. And, you know, who's to say that they're not entitled to make a few bucks? I would have thought you, being a guy who has always been known for appreciating trilobular fastening technology, would be thrilled with this one. It's using pentalobe.
I know. Apple's usually pretty tight-lipped about its products, with the exception of the last iPhone, which accidentally fell out of someone's pocket in a bar. And so everyone got to see the next 4 months away iPhone before they quickly shut it all up. But the web's pretty much abuzz with little stories about what everyone thinks is coming into the new iPhone. They call it the iPhone 5 already. This is not the one that Verizon's getting, but it's got a few things, but they think mainly it's going to have this ability to use your phone as a sort of a credit card thing, where you can swipe your phone past one of these credit card readers. I don't know whether I like that. It's all going to be based on using the money you've got banked up in iTunes or something like that, but there's a lot of buzz at the moment.
So are you saying that Apple is pretty much going to be responsible for being the new world's reserve currency?
Hey, how many billions in reserve? They probably just about are already. But
Steve Jobs has solved another one.
Right, yeah. How to bankroll everyone.
Yeah, with their latest app, iBailout.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We have an app for that, okay?
Well, I guess it's not so bad being a roustabout of the fastener world when you can kick things around like this and be on internet talk radio, you know? Could be a lot worse, right?
You just never know where this is all going.
Actually, we do know, and that is into the history books, because that one puts episode 18 of Fully Threaded Radio in the can.
Hey, talk to you next time, everybody.
For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Thanks very much for listening, folks, and we'll see you next time.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fasteners Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.
I can't think of anything else to say at the moment, okay?